3 minutes after 11 is the time. Now, I am not suggesting for a moment that it happens on a radio station such as this one, but there is a tendency elsewhere, perhaps, when you have prominent politicians sitting in the studio who are more than happy, in fact, looking forward to taking calls from voters, both potential and actual. There is a tendency to stage some of them. That is why, by amazing coincidence, they end up getting asked questions about stuff that, well, it's printed in newspapers where the ink is still wet. I don't do that here, largely because I enjoy the sound of my own voice so much. I don't really like handing over the powers of inquiry to you, but given that there is a big election facing London tomorrow, I will on this occasion let you ask Sadiq Khan the question that you want to, as well as listening to mine. And the number you need if you want to do that is 0345 6060 973. Sadiq Khan is in the studio on the home straight. Regardless of what the result is, it's the home straight.
It's a pleasure to be here. And James, you may have forgotten because you speak to important people all the time, unlike me. But when I first decided to run to be Labour's candidate for Mayor of London, you were the first show I did live on air. When I was lucky enough to be selected the candidate on September the 11th. The very first interview I did was with you, and I'll give you a secret. This will be my last live interview before Election Day, and it's here with you. So it's a pleasure to be here, James. I'm looking forward to a nice, easy ride.
Yes. Careful what you wish for. How have you found it? Been surprised?
Loved it. I love campaigning. I love speaking to Londoners. It's been an experience of a lifetime, talking to Londoners, listening to Londoners about the concerns they've got, the aspirations they've got, sometimes being able to be honest and say, look, I think I can do that. Other times saying, I've got to be frank, that's a government issue. There's not a lot I can do. I can persuade governments. There's not a lot I can do. But, one of the things I've tried to tell Londoners is I think we've been, over the last 8 years, given the impression mayors can't do much, that the job of the mayor is to crack a few jokes, walk the red carpet, cut ribbons. I can do all that, by the way. But actually, mayors can do a huge amount. I've met with and studied mayors from around the world. A mayor can use the levers given to him or her by Parliament, the powers, but also to use the pulpit of City Hall to persuade people to do stuff for the betterment of London. So a mayor can tackle the housing crisis. A mayor can freeze fares and ensure we've got a modern transport system.
Yeah, just stop there, because freezing fares I understand. Because I was looking for points of really serious distinction between you and your main rivals at Goldsmith on the policy front, and the freezing fares at the moment is all we could come up with. Housing you've been making quite similar.
I'll give you a big difference. I think the great thing about our city is we don't simply tolerate difference, we celebrate, embrace and respect it. So, for example, I'm proud of the fact we're a city where Muslims, Jews, Christian, Hindu, Sikhs, Buddhists, those who aren't a member of an organised faith, don't just tolerate each other, but respect each other. We need a mayor who's going to unite London rather than divide them. So a big difference between the two of us would be I'd bring our city together. And I think what we need after the contest we've had is a mayor who will heal our city. And that's a big, big difference between him and me.
So you're referring to some of the tactics that he's employed during the course of this campaign, tactics which I presume you've been quite surprised by?
I'm surprised that the Zach Goldsmith that I knew before the contest would allow himself to go down this road. Look, politics can sometimes be, quite aggressive and adversarial. But when I was selected the candidate, I was selected before Zach Goldsmith. And I was asked the question on many occasions, who are you hoping wins the Tory contest? And I said, Zach. Why? He's independent-minded. The Zach I knew, charming, personable, good, really interesting guy. And I thought we'd be competing about who's got the best vision for our city. It'd be a campaign fizzing with ideas, neither of us being tribal, and then London would choose the best candidate. What's happened instead is I've had 7 months of negative, divisive, and increasingly desperate stuff from him. And I've tried. Some
of it was true, though, surely.
Of course, listen. I think we should. Politicians who stand to be mayor should be scrutinised. There's nothing wrong with that at all. We should be tested. If there's things we've said in the past that needs to be brought up, they should be brought up. That's fine. That's legitimate. But can I just reassure your listeners who are Hindu or Sikh, I will not tax their gold or nick their gold. Can I reassure your listeners who are Tamil, I understand the concerns they've got in relation to housing and transport and all the other stuff. I just think some of the tactics used are not the sort of tactics that I've seen in mainstream politics in my lifetime.
Is it true that you don't want Jeremy Corbyn to join the celebrations if you win tomorrow?
No, I got a text this morning that apparently was on a TV programme that you know very well last night.
It was on Newsnight last night. Nicholas Watt reported.
No, it's news to me.
So it's not true.
No, it's not true. But listen, the most important thing is for me to persuade Londoners to vote tomorrow. I'm not talking about celebration parties or what's going to happen afterwards. I'm focusing on making sure all Londoners take part in the contest tomorrow.
Then I suppose it becomes the latest chapter in the campaign tactics that you've just described. This Uncle Tom's phrase that's in the newspapers today. People not familiar with it. It's an interview you gave in 2009, which I've now read the full transcript of, and you were describing yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think the context matters. And firstly, I regret using the phrase because it
Did you understood exactly what it meant?
Yeah, I did, and I do. The context was, and I do regret using the phrase, and I'm sorry. The context is this: I was a communities minister, and I was trying to get everyone involved in working with and consulting with government. And so you can't simply talk to those who agree with you, and they can be caricatured as being, inverted commas, Uncle Tom. And the point I was making was we want to talk to everyone, even those that are offside as well as those who are onside. That's the point I was trying to make as a minister, and that's really important when you hold a position of power and influence. You speak to everyone, not simply those who agree with you. And in the context of difficult things around foreign policy or around getting minority communities involved in mainstream politics, that's the point I was seeking to make. And
not in any way suggesting that you were referring to people of colour who are somehow subservient to.
No, I mean, absolutely not, and that's why I regret using that phrase, and I'm sorry, but you've read the entire interview and stuff. And you're quite clear what I meant by.
Well, you would have been an Uncle Tom under that definition.
That's the point.
Yes.
I'm the guy who, when I first stood for Parliament, had extremists protesting outside the mosque that I'd worshipped in most of my life, saying, I was, committing sin, haram, by standing for Parliament, inverted commas, man-made law. So in their eyes. Again, apologies for using the phrase, an Uncle Tom. I'm the person who voted for same-sex marriage and had a fatwa against me, in their eyes, inverted commas, selling out and stuff. And I've, throughout my life, stood up to inequality and injustice.
Have you felt any guilt? Because, you're the candidate, but your family have been dragged into it, some publicly. Privately, there must have been pain. Have there been moments where you thought, this isn't actually what I came into politics for? Me
personally, I'm resilient. And I'm strong, and I can withstand this stuff. But I feel for my family. Look, I've got a mum who's a widow. I've got 6 brothers and a sister. I've got 2 gorgeous daughters, a wife, in-laws. I've got 22 nephews and nieces. I've got 3 great nephews and nieces. And I worry about how it's impacting them. Not all their friends. It may be fantastic. Children in the playground can be a bit cruel. When you read in the newspapers or hear on the radio or read a snippet of something on social media and you mistakenly think that means that Sadiq Khan's an extremist or somebody's talking about somebody's dad, it's not nice. And so we're a close family, we love each other and we support each other unconditionally. But that's been the toughest part of the campaign, actually, not me. I mean, listen, I'm ready to be the mayor, but it's the impact on my family. And also during the last few weeks in particular, I've met more and more and more Londoners, Asian origin, some of them Islamic faith, who were saying, what, Sadiq, we've done really well in business, or we've done really well in accountancy, we've done really well in medicine. We were thinking about our children, encouraging them to go into politics, to get involved in public life. But you know what? Nah, after what's happened to you, we're not going to do that. And what I'm saying to them is, look, no, you must do it. And I've never talked about, for example, some of the stories I've got about the racism I suffered when I was a lawyer or as a young politician. I've always talked about how easy it is. If I can do it, you can do it. It's so easy. Just work hard at school, listen to your teachers. You can do it. Join a mainstream party. I'm the guy that celebrated when Adam Afriyie was elected in Windsor. I think it's great that there's parties competing for minority votes. I think Sajid being in the cabinet and Priti is fantastic for our way of life. We're not all the same Asian people. We've got different forms of view. What's wonderful about Sajid Javid and Priti Patel is both Asians. One wants to leave the European Union, one wants to remain. That's how different and diverse we are. And so that's been disappointed. And, I don't like talking about it because I don't want people to think, geez, if that's what Sadiq's family went through, why should we want to be a councillor? Why should we want to be an MP? Why should we want to be a governor in our school? Why should we want to stand for mayor?
Why do you want to be mayor?
I'm blessed. I've got cousins in Pakistan. I've got cousins in India. My cousins in Pakistan tell me we're ethnic majority, religious majority. You've achieved far more in London than we have in Pakistan. In India, I've got cousins, ethnic majority, religious minority. They say the same. Now, it's not because I'm brilliant. It's because in London, the deal's been this. You work hard, you get a helping hand, you can achieve anything. You know, I don't simply talk about my background for the sake of talking about it. What motivates me for being involved in politics, my dad was a bus driver. It's a fact, for more than 25 years.
You should mention that more.
Well, my mum did so close to help support our family. It's a fact. We lived in a council property. It's a fact. Now, I went to good local state schools where the teachers pushed me. It's a fact. Now, my point is this. The helping hand that I received to go from a council estate to being a lawyer, to help run a successful business, to being an MP, to now running for mayor, I worry too many Londoners today, your children, my children, won't have the same helping hand I had, and I want all Londoners to have their potential fulfilled. So and I think I can do that.
You believe the journey from bunk bed, bus driver dad, to, let's say, the House of Commons, possibly City Hall, you think that would be harder today for a young man from your... Let's leave the ethnicity out of it for a moment. Just say from that socio-economic background, harder today than it was in your day?
Without a doubt. I meet all the time, you mentioned leave ethnicity, I meet all the time bus drivers who are working class who are saying, look, we can't afford to get a property in London. There's no council properties left. We're renting. More than half my salary is going in my rent. No chance to save for a deposit, which I want to buy a property of my own. Or they're travelling in an hour and a half each way to work. Because they're renting, they're moving 2-3 times during the course of their children's school life. So the children are moving school or travelling an hour and a half each way. There aren't good local state schools. Those that there are, they're travelling a long way from. The new schools are opening in areas where we don't need new schools. And so in areas where there's a need for extra places, they're not being provided. People with the grades aren't going to universities to the degrees they want to do. My brother got a good quality apprenticeship as a motor mechanic 20-30 years ago. There's not the same good quality apprenticeships now as there were then, and I can go on. The NHS has, saved.
Well, don't go on yet, because you've raised housing, and it leads to a rather question I was about to ask, but I think Lee's got the same question in mind at the moment. Lee is in Orpington. Lee, what would you like to ask Sadiq Khan?
Is it morning, afternoon? Yeah, good morning. All it is you're talking about you're going to supply 50,000 or whatever it is houses, affordable houses. Now, you yourself have said that your dad and your mum come from council estate background, blah, 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 which is fine. That's where most of us come from. But they had a council house. Now, the way I'm hearing it is, all of you, all 6 or 7 candidates, are saying you're releasing TfL land and government land to private companies. Why are you not releasing it to councils to build council houses where they can charge rents of 50, 60, maybe £70 a week that people can afford?
Lee, thanks for your question. By the way, you're absolutely right, and that is my policy. So let me tell you what my policy is. I'm not obsessed with this 50,000 figure that Zach Goldsmith talks about all the time, because I think, I've got to be honest, we're not going to get there in the near future. In the last couple of years, we've built, roughly speaking, 22,000 homes a year, the lowest in peacetime in London since the 1920s. What I'm saying is, it's a sort of homes we build. You're absolutely right. So what I'm saying is, on public land, and TfL owns the equivalent of 16 times Hyde Park. A lot of that is surplus. On public land, the homes have got to be genuinely affordable. And let me define it for you, Lee. I'm not saying homes costing up to £500,000 like Zach is. I'm saying either one of 3. Council properties, like you're saying, with a council rent, or properties where you pay a London living rent, and that's 1/3 of average local earnings, or homes which are rent to buy, part rent. And we've modelled TfL land in zones 3 to 6. You could buy one of these with a deposit of between £5,000 and £6,000.
Who are they paying the rent to?
To us. And I'll keep the... Sorry, James is running me, Lee. We're going to keep the freehold. I'm not going to sell the freehold to a developer or have a fire sale like Boris has done. We're going to keep the freehold for a number of reasons. Firstly, because we can control the sort of homes that are built on this land. Secondly, it's an income stream coming in. And this income stream coming in I will use to freeze fares, but also as a revenue stream to build more homes for Londoners. But you're right, it's the sorts of homes we build. And the other thing is this, Lee, which is really important. At the moment, before these homes have been completed, they're sold off-plan overseas to investors in the Middle East and Asia. I have nothing against foreigners. Some of my best friends and family are foreigners. But we've got to build homes for Londoners and not be embarrassed to say first dibs for Londoners.
How can you enshrine that in law?
Yes. So
the Danish model is one that's often cited.
Yeah, well, so there's a number of ways we can do it. So on public land, very easy to do, because we will make sure the homes are allocated by either council housing waiting lists or other forms we can do. Very easy. On private land, the condition of permission will be for the first 6 months, you've got to market it here in London before you can market overseas. So there already are good Labour councils, Hackney being one, who on a private land gave permission to a developer, but said for the first 6 months, please market these market value properties here in Hackney before you go overseas.
Lee, can I do the supplementary here, mate, or do you want to come back yourself?
Can I
Just
come back?
pop the headphones on, Sadiq. Yeah, of course you can. Put them on properly. Cause
Yeah, I'm sorry, but you've still not talked about council. You're saying releasing it and keeping the freehold. It's nothing to do with TfL, nothing to do with the mayor. It should be the London boroughs like it used to be. They built the houses, they rented them out. It was their apprentices, their builders, their plumbers, which we've got no more. That's what we need. That would solve the housing crisis.
No, you're right.
I'm having a pop there. It'd be all of you. You've all got brilliant educations, but none of you have got any common sense.
let's take it one topic at a time. I don't know if we can go into personality deconstructions at this point. Let's talk about the housing, Sadiq.
Yeah, no, Lee, the reason why we are
it's not council housing in the way that Lee recognises it and the way that history has delivered it.
We are going to help councils build more homes, but the problem is, Lee, councils can't borrow to build. And successive governments haven't allowed them to do so. So what councils have done over the last 20, 30 years under Right to Buy is sell off the council homes but not replace them. So the stock's being replenished. And so councils do want to build council homes like you and me know them, but they can't do so. And I'm going to help them. How? I'm going to set up Homes for Londoners, a team including councils, housing associations, developers and those with finance to give councils the help they need. That means collating land, getting land there, getting finance, but also bringing brownfield sites back into use. Let me give you an example. Barking and Dagenham would love to build council homes. The issue there is the lack of river crossings in the east of London and the lack of good public transport links. So I'm going to help Barking and Dagenham by the overground extension going there. Ken Livingstone and the government were going to do the DLR extension that was cancelled in 2008. That transport links allows the council to build council homes that you and I know about. We are going to do it, but it will take some time. But what you need is a mayor with a political will and the savvy to do so, and dare I say it, some common sense as well.
What about developers who don't see the appeal of helping you? I mean, how can you be confident that builders who are getting a better return on their own investment at the moment are going to pile in for the considerably smaller return, freehold absent return that you're offering them?
Well, good developers understand there is a housing crisis. I mean, they can't get the staff themselves. There's a recruitment and retention issue because of, it's not simply bus drivers, porters, junior nurses who can't afford to live in London. It's chief executives, senior, nurses, junior doctors can't afford to live in London. Those in construction, they get it. And they'll understand that if they want to get permission on big developments, the quid pro quo is that a significant number of the homes built need to be genuinely affordable. My definition, not Boris Johnson's or Zach Goldsmith's.
And how does that work on the bigger picture, Sadiq? If you make these genuinely affordable homes at the bottom of the pile, what happens to the rest of the pile?
Well, the homes we're building are sub-market. The homes that are being built are all sorts of homes, but the homes that I'm particularly keen to make sure are genuinely affordable are sub-market. Council, London living rent, a third of average earnings, or rent to buy. The other homes will still be the market value, the luxury, the starter homes, all those sort of homes we need. We need a diversification of homes in London. Let me give you an example. A developer will tell you when there's a piece of land, they make the most profit if there are 500 studio flats, for argument's sake. Well, actually, that's all fine, but do we need studio flats? What we need is development, which is a community, family homes.
But you're asking investors then not to maximise profit, which is a little optimistic.
Well, that's the quid pro quo for getting planning permission in London.
That's the deal you're going to offer them. That's the only deal on the table.
And for some parts of London, we'll demand more social housing, more London living rent, more rent to buy. In other parts of London, clearly the return will need to be fewer genuinely affordable homes. That's a deal that local authorities are best placed to make. But the difference is this. The local authority will know there is a London plan from the mayor with this expectation. And so what that'll mean is they'll be able to negotiate better with developers.
Let's change horses slightly. Gary is in Covent Garden. Gary, what would you like to ask Sadiq Khan?
Good morning, gents. I'm 52-year-old Londoner, born and bred in East London. I've just had to sell my house because I can no longer make a living what I've been doing for the last 22 years. I'm a licensed London taxi driver. And because of Transport for London's unwillingness or however you like to put it, to enforce the laws, I've got to drag my family outside of London. We should be excited, but frankly, we're absolutely gutted. What are you going to do to stop corruption within TfL?
What do you mean by corruption? Because you can't really allege illegality in any way, not without at least offering a right of reply, and even then I'd be uncomfortable. What are you referring to specifically, Gary?
James, we both know. We both know about the act that's slaughtering London all over London, and we've been corrupt. But by corruption, I mean that we know that there have been meetings between Uber and TfL. We know that.
Yes, but we don't know that anything.
Everybody knows that.
Okay, then I'll use the word inappropriate in your view, rather than in any way nefarious or illegal. This programme's made no secret of its own allegiances to the London taxi drivers, and Gary is not the only one that's going to be slinging his hook.
No, Gary, firstly, I'm sorry that you can't afford to live in London anymore, and there are too many people like you, hard-working public servants. That's what I call black cab drivers, black taxi drivers, leaving London.
They might not like that.
Well, let me tell you, Gary, why I've got the problem we've got and how we're going to try and address that. Firstly, you're right to be unhappy with TfL's enforcement of private hire vehicles and the licensing regime. I understand your frustration. I think the black taxis are part of public transport. And I think public transport deserves special privileges, such as ply for hire, such as being able to use bus lanes, such as the privileges you have around the airport. In fact, the LTDA, Unite and others actually are looking to invest in black taxis, whether it's Oyster, whether it's credit cards or other things as well. And we've got to recognise the black taxi is the only form of taxi that is accessible for disabled Londoners, and that's why we should invest in them. You're the only form of private car that's actually invested in being electric by 2018. So I want to be a mayor who supports you. What I don't want to do is you to go the way of the red telephone box, iconic, but a thing in the past. So I'm working with LTDA, working with Unite and others.
It's
working
not what
with
Gary wants to hear. He wants to hear what you're going to do to limit Uber's rise through the capital, through the city. Am I right, Gary? I should just double check. You want to know what Sadiq's going to do to put a lid on things.
James, first of all, thanks for your support, by the way.
Yeah.
We really do appreciate that, honestly. And again, I'll say it again, and you can chastise me if you like, James. Corruption. That's what we're for. And it's not Uber, it's Transport for London. Uber have been banned all over the world. They've just been banned in Reading, for Christ's sake. Yet in London, the greatest city in the world, we welcome them with open arms. Okay. Now there have been 32 sexual assaults in a Uber minicab in the past year. Okay, this has got to stop.
But again, you conflate. I hear your point, and the thing I was putting to the candidate is very simply that he wants to see action taken against this company rather than necessarily the measures of support you've just outlined for people who share his profession.
Well, I've got to be honest, Gary, we've got to be a bit careful in relation to, making allegations that I can't substantiate and stuff. But let me be clear what I can do, which is the Transport for London board currently doesn't reflect the needs of London's public transport. So we'll make sure the TfL board has people on there that understand what the black taxi trade needs. We need to have better enforcement against private hire vehicles. You're right to express concern. But
give him something he can hang his hat on then.
So, for example, at the moment, there are private hire vehicles, looking at 2-3 sat-navs, applying for hire outside clubs, causing problems in London. We've got to tackle that, make sure it's not happening. We've got to make sure there's a basic sense of knowledge when it comes to, speaking English. If you're a private hire vehicle, it's really important. There are concerns around safety.
Is that legal? Can you do that legally, the English-speaking side?
Yeah, of course we can. We give the license. TfL is in charge of the licensing. We've got to make sure, for example, basic stuff around safety. Think about all the checks and balances, Gary, you and your colleagues are going to go through. And the heartbreaking thing is this. At the moment, the number of people doing knowledge is going down for the first time in generations. That means where is the pipeline bringing through the next generation of black taxi drivers? That's why it's important to have a mayor who is on your side, and that's what I intend to be.
But you're not going to be able to give him what he wants, which is for you to say there will be fewer Uber cars on the streets of this capital city when I am mayor.
I only make promises I can keep.
Gary?
Well, I mean, the future's here, James. Our days are numbered unless someone pulls their finger out. I've just told you, I've got to leave London. I'm in a hospital car park going to see my mum. My mum don't even know I'm leaving London yet. You can understand the strength of feeling. I'm just one of many people that are everybody's retraining and moving away. It's incredible what's going on. It really is. TfL have been complicit in our demise. Not only our demise, but in our eradication. And I've just got to wonder. I mean, I'll be all right. We'll be okay. My family will get on with it, and we'll work hard somewhere else, out of London, regrettably. But what I fail to understand is I don't understand why they think London is going to be better without us.
I'm not sure that is a question that is on your watch.
There is an important point, which is this. Look, one of the downsides of having a mayor who either lacks experience or is part-time or is looking for a different job is they don't understand these problems. Gary, my promise to you is I'll be a full-time mayor who makes sure TfL works for Londoners rather than being a part-time one who treats the job as a joke.
But the black cab, and this is a London mayoral election, so I make no apologies for the exclusively London focus on this. The black cab is in decline. It's on its way out.
Without a doubt, I worry about the next generation. So, for example, a new generation of black taxis is coming in, and there's some subsidy from TfL. By 2018, they'll be electric. They're fantastic. My worry is many black taxi drivers will just use that to retire rather than buying the new taxi, because it's an investment buying a new taxi. If you think there's no future in being a black taxi driver, why would you invest in a new taxi? And so the challenge I've got over the next 2 years is to make sure I reassure people like Gary to stay being black taxi drivers, because what we can't afford to do is lose a generation of black taxi drivers, because my worry is there isn't the people coming through the pipeline to replace them.
Also, in the interest of balance, Gary, Jonathan's been in touch to say, I can't afford a black cab from central London to the Royal Docks, but I can afford an Uber. Why shouldn't I have that choice? It's more of a live and let live position, I think, that Gary was pursuing, and he feels he can't live in London anymore. So you understand the depth of his feeling. Did you know that if I worked for TfL, my flatmates would get free travel across all zones?
Yeah, and one of the things I want to do is have a root and branch review of TfL. I mean, I'll give you another stat. Did you know there are 450 people in TfL earning more than £100,000? Did you know that there was £900 million wasted in a botched tube maintenance contract between TfL and Bombardier? Did you know we've got one underground engineering department in TfL and one surface engineering department in TfL? Did you know the use of agency staff over the last 8 years has more than doubled thanks to an FOI questionnaire? We know that information. Did you know last year they spent more than £383 million on consultants and agency staff? That's why I say TfL is good, but it's flabby. That's why I say I can freeze fares over the next 4 years to make sure TfL works for Londoners rather than Londoners paying for a flabby TfL.
For the record, yes, no, yes, no.
Okay.
Sadiq Khan, I think we're out of time. You could have continued to take a number of calls, but it is housing and transport that seems to concern people the most, and which, of course, concern you the most as well.
And I've got a plan to tackle the housing crisis and to freeze fares over the next 4 years and be a mayor for all Londoners. Please make sure you vote tomorrow, preferably for me.
Sadiq Khan, many thanks. As the race for mayor enters its final 24 hours, you can hear from all the candidates here on LBC. The Conservative candidate Zach Goldsmith spoke to Nick Ferrari yesterday. UKIP's Peter Whittle joined Sheila Fogarty. And of course, I spoke to the Green candidate Sian Berry. Caroline Pidgeon from the Liberal Democrats will be with Sheila at 2:30 today. And the Labour candidate Sadiq Khan, who has just been here with me. There are 12 candidates standing for mayor in all, and they are Sian Berry, Green; David Furness, BNP; George Galloway, Respect; Paul Golding, Britain First; Zach Goldsmith, Conservative; Lee Harris, Cannabis is Safer Than Alcohol; Sadiq Khan, Labour; Ankit Love, One Love; Caroline Pidgeon, Liberal Democrat; Sophie Walker, Women's Equality; Peter Whittle, UKIP; and Prince Zielinski, an independent candidate.
Feeling very good. I'm hoping to do a Leicester City here. Go zoom in from behind and win on May the 5th. I'm feeling very good about the campaign. The thing is, as we get closer, this is a huge election. It will, whoever is in City Hall will have a massive impact on the lives of every single person in London, and people know.